Thanks, Tanya. Hi, Mariska, I'm alcoholic. Sure, okay, yeah, I'm quite nervous right now. I think, yeah, I'm always nervous. I wasn't until I came closer to here, and I feel like I'm talking over a microphone here or something, like, bring it on. Where's Don? Yeah, sure, I'm sitting here and I'm just thinking, like, if I think back 10 years ago, whatever, in active addiction and going through the process I've been going through for the last 12 years, I would have never thought that this is possible, that I would ever be able to live life without any substance in my life, or yeah, and just have the life I have today. And I know through my experience that this is possible and that this has happened because of this program, because I'm going to tell my story, and in my story is how I've tried everything else before, and this is how I also know and I believe in this program, because I know I've tried everything else, and this is the only thing that has given me this life, and yeah, being able to sit here today. Yeah, so I'm gonna just start. I want to share my step one, and yeah, I'm gonna start there, how it used to be for me. Yeah, I'm gonna just go back a bit, like when I was at school and stuff. If I look back now in hindsight, I can see how I was never okay with myself, and even I'm sorry, where's Wendy? I'm gonna say like a lot, and yeah, and I'm gonna be all over the place, because that's how my brain works. Yeah, so I can see now as well, without the drugs and alcohol, I can relate and can see my behavior is often a lot like when I was younger, about not feeling okay with myself and wishing I could be someone else, and thinking like if I'm someone else I would be happy, or if I look different I would be happy, or if I'm prettier I'll be happy, if I'm skinnier, like all these mad things. And obviously when I was little I didn't have that awareness that I have today, but in hindsight I can see it was like that. And I remember especially I had a very good friend that is still friends with me up until today. We were friends till grade 1, and I often would copy her, and I would, if she does certain things, I would start doing the same thing, because I thought, like, if I'm like her, she seems happy, she looks happy, she looks like yeah, like she's okay. She doesn't feel like me, like I feel inside. And if I'm like her, that will change for me. Any case, and that's, yeah, just to bring that where I can see in hindsight that's how it was for me a lot, and where my insecurities and that like not okay feeling has started for me. And then also, I think something important for me also just to share is I was abused when I was little, and I always share about this because it's very important for me, because it played a very important role for me in my life, especially with my active addiction. I used that for a very, very long time to do the things I was doing, and to act the way I was acting, and use it as an excuse, and saying, well, if you had my life, you would be using drugs too. If you had to go through that stuff, you would be doing this too, giving myself a good reason to be the way I am. So, and through working the steps, especially my step 4 and 5, I came to realize like that's not the way it is. To realize that I'm not a victim, and it's my choice if I want to be a victim or not. So yeah, I like to share about that stuff, because it was really a big part of my using. In any case, I started drinking for the first time when I was 14. I remember I think I got like drunk on 3 shooters. I mean, like that was simple as that. And I was happy, and I remember I was with the people that I was, and we were like, I don't know, like mad walking down the streets, and I don't know, and I suppose that's where it started for me. And never did I think that I would be controlled by this stuff. I thought this is what people do, and I continue doing it. I think my high school, I kind of like did the social thing, you know, went to parties and like drank there and like did the stuff that the people did there, and that's kind of what I did in high school. But with that, my behavior was also not okay. I started being very dishonest with my mom and them, because like my parents are Afrikaans. I was brought up in an Afrikaans house, and they're quite strict. I mean the stuff that I was busy with, I knew my parents wouldn't approve of it, and I would be lying about it, and just constantly not telling them where I'm actually at, and tell them I'm sleeping at a friend's house. Meanwhile, I have no idea where I'm going or what I'm doing. And that was kind of my high school. And with my high school, my behavior got worse and worse and worse and worse, especially with my mom. I think my high school and just after high school was like my worst years with my mom, continuously in, what do I say, collision? I don't know, what do you say? With my mom, because if I look back at it now, my mom, she fought for me for a very long time to get me better, to try and get me better. And obviously she saw that her daughter I'm destroying my life. I obviously thought different. I thought I knew what I was doing. And my biggest thing in high school was I wish my mom could leave me alone so that I can do what I want to do. And I remember that that was always, I always wanted that. I fought for the right to do what I want to do, to be irresponsible, mess up my life, and I hated my mom for trying to stop me from doing that. So my high school, that's kind of how my high school was. Always fighting and screaming with my mom because of me and because of the way I was acting. And then I started taking, I used my first substance when I was 16 years old. I didn't like it much, and sooner after that, I used the next substance. So it kind of went from one thing to the next. And I remember the guy that I was with at the time said to me, if you're going to take this, you're going to want to take it again. And I was like, no, I'll just do this once and I'll never do it again. And that wasn't the case. From there on, I started doing it every weekend, and the next day when I woke up, I was like, when are we doing it again? And I really wanted, and I just continued with doing that. My progression was very quick for me. I'm just gonna fast forward from there. I did drugs in between, and I was busted a few times, and for me also where I suppose my journey getting to my step one started was from that point on as well. The first time I got caught, and I promised my mom I'll never do it again, and I think meaning it for myself as well. I'll never do it again, and I just tried it out, but I did. I don't know why I did it again, but I did. I ended up doing it again, and I started working after I left school, and I started using other substances, and for the first time, my unmanageability started showing, especially at work. I couldn't get up for work. I would be falling asleep at work. I did jewelry, and we worked with blow torches and stuff, and I once set my bench alight, and mad stuff like that, where people would just they could clearly see like something is not okay with me. And I got confronted, and I think if I look back for like at that time, when I got confronted, I think, yeah, the best way to get out of it for me at that time was to admit, like, okay, I was using something. And, yeah, and I went to treatment for the first time when I was 19 years old. And I had no clue. I had no clue about that this is a disease, and, yeah, I had no clue what this is about. I thought that I would go into treatment. I was there for 2 weeks, and I would leave there, and I'm going to be okay. And I truly thought this. I thought, like, and I remember, I always share about this because it's quite important for me, that I was in that treatment center, and I wrote in a little book, like, to God, like, promising myself I'm going to change my life, and I'm never going to do any substance again, and yeah, and sincerely meaning that. And I left there. And in a couple of weeks, I was doing the same thing, and I couldn't understand why. And kind of from there on, for the next 10, 12 years, I was in and out of treatment centers, looking for a way out. Yeah, I suppose my youth years or whatever, where normal people would be going to movies or whatever, I was drugging and going into treatment. That's how I spend those my younger years. From there on, sure, like in between that, this is where I get very mixed up because that's kind of how it was. It was chaos. Get busted, get to a point where I have no substances to use, no more money left, nowhere to go, and the next best thing for me to get out of trouble is go to treatment. And with this, like in between all of this, like I started like doing stuff like selling my clothes out of my car boot. I started like doing stuff like that I thought like I'll never do, you know. And yeah, sure, this is where I get lost. Sorry guys, I need to like find my focus points again, because that's kind of where I went into treatment. And also in between this, relationships, I had like relationships where like was never okay, and it was also always with another addict or a person that is not okay. And the one or two guys that I did date, that was okay. I thought I'm gonna stop for them, and I'm going to change for them. And again, it was like when this is the moment where I know, like, even though I meant it and I wanted to do that, I couldn't. I wasn't able to. And I remember, like, I would start using and I'd like hide it, and yeah, like be absolutely mad because I really wanted to stop and I couldn't. And also in between this, I tried different kind of rehabs. I went on medication. I tried to get clean with medication, and that didn't work either. And yeah, and I went to church. I tried to go to church, and yeah, and that also didn't work for me. And I remember in between all of this, I got to a point where I remember the last time, and I can't remember how many times I've been into rehab this time. I stood in front of my mom's house, and I was on my way to another rehab, and I said to her, what is the point? Like, what is the point of going to another rehab? I've tried it all, you know. It's not going to work. And I remember the look in her face as well. Like she kind of knew as well, because she's done this journey with me of trying to get me better. Also, like I've messed up a lot of opportunities in my life. I was sent to university. I was there for not even 6 months. I told my mom I'm going to university. Meanwhile, university is on holiday. So like small stuff like that as well that I really messed up. And even before, when I wanted to go to university, I remember like promising myself, okay, I need to stop using, because I know that I can't do anything while I'm using. And by the time the university started, I couldn't stop. I just couldn't, and I really wanted to. Yeah, sorry, I'm jumping. Yeah, so the time that I was standing in front of my mom's house, have been trying all different ways and means to stop using by now. I remember like that hopeless feeling of like, I'm gonna die like this, because I have pretty much tried every avenue. And yeah, nothing has worked so far, and I'm over rehab, and yeah, and I remember that feeling, and from there on, I went and I started getting introduced to this program, and yeah, I didn't get better, but it was the first time that I was introduced to something different, the steps and meetings, and yeah, I didn't understand it, and I didn't know that what I had to do to get this and to sit here, and yeah, and still I went out and I tried to get out of Joburg. After that, I was. Also, other thing that I wanted to talk about is the people I worked for. I worked for them for 6 years, and yeah, they kept me there like long after I should have been still working there, and because I was not what is the word, not like a good employer. What do you say? Like not productive at all at work, and yeah, or I was in rehab. That was the two things. Either in rehab or not, like I don't know, like of no use at work. And yeah, and these people like kind of supported me all the way. And yeah, and eventually they've also had enough. They had enough, and after 6 years, they told me, sorry, they can't do this anymore. And I pretty much got fired from my first job, and I moved to Cape Town. I thought, okay, if I get out of Joburg, I will get better. And also another, like a big thing for me is I had a big reservation with drinking. For a very long time, I thought like the other substances is my problem. I can still drink because I'm young and I don't want to stop drinking. And for me, it was kind of like a process of elimination every time. Yeah, and I had to go, and I moved to Cape Town, and I thought a whole new me. No one knows me here. I can be who I want to be. And yeah, and it's going to be different, and it wasn't. I was drinking, and sooner or later I picked up and I started using again. And in Cape Town, I had an affair with a guy, which brought me a lot of pain for the first time. And yeah, and it was quite hectic for me. Yeah, and I got to a place where I had nowhere to go, no money. I got fired. I think in a year's time, I got fired from 2 jobs, and black people, because I was incapable of doing work and being on time, and I was just a mess. I was like losing weight, and I didn't look too great either, and also never been able to look after myself. In 12 years of my active addiction, I had people looking after me all the time, people paying my rent, even if I was staying in a place for like a month, maybe at tops, because then I'll be going to rehab soon after that. I was never capable of paying rent or buying my own food. People brought me food, people paid my rent for me. I was just like, I couldn't do that stuff for myself. And when I came into Cape Town, it was pretty much the same thing. I lived with a friend there, and also I lived with them, and like no consideration whatsoever, staying with, they were a married couple, and I would like go jawling till like 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and yeah, come home, like not worrying whatsoever about them. And eventually also in Cape Town, I came to a place where I had pain for the first time in my life. And I suppose if I look at all the rest of the times that I've gone into treatment and been in active addiction, I was never sick of me, and I never had pain of what I'm doing to myself and to others around me. And for the first time, I had that pain, and I eventually again I had to come into treatment, and in that year as well, the same thing with the like just not being able to stop. I ended up in hospital, and I was in kidney failure, and I don't know, the doctor said to me, you cannot use or drink again because you will die. And after 3 weeks, I was using again, and I couldn't stop myself, and it was like absolutely mad, because while I'm using, I'm like freaking out and like thinking like my kidneys is stopping to work and like all this mad stuff, but I'm using, I can't stop. And I ended up in treatment again, and at the House on the Hill. That was my second time there, and I got there, and for the first time I had pain, but I didn't stay clean. I didn't do what I had to do, and I didn't stay clean. I ran away from treatment. Being dishonest about how I'm feeling in treatment, and I chose to go use again. And I came back, and I was clean for like 15 months before. And the thing for me, like what I got to share on for me that is very important, in that 15 months, I was not in recovery. I was clean, but I was not in recovery. I didn't work any kind of program. I didn't follow any suggestions. I did have a sponsor, and I did come to meetings, but that was about it. I wasn't doing anything that I had to do. I wasn't changing the picture, and I suppose today I know that is what it's about for me. It's about doing things differently and changing the picture. And I got into a relationship. And it was a dishonest relationship, and the person I got into a relationship was a newcomer, and eventually I knew, like, my guilt and shame around it. I knew it wasn't okay, and I couldn't stand the way I was feeling anymore around that stuff, and I needed relief, and I picked up around that stuff as well, and I went into treatment again for the last time. And and this time, this year that I came back, I worked a program, and I did things differently. I was au pairing just before I went into treatment, and for 2 teenager girls. And when I relapsed, I was still looking after these 2 girls, and I was using while I was driving them around, and absolutely insane. Using in their house. I was supposed to be looking after them, and also a lot of not loving them in the way I should, being I took them to nightclubs, and I allowed them to drink, and because it was easier for me, because then I could do what I want to do. And when I went back into treatment, I had to work my steps again, and for me, I know today, because I've worked the steps a couple of times, the written work is, yes, it does help me, and it makes me see what I have to see, and it makes me connect to what I've done to other people, and but I know it's not about the written work. Today, for me, it's about putting in the action and actually, doing recovery, and not just, sitting and thinking I'm going to be I'm going to magically get better, because that's not my experience. For me, recovery, especially this year, has been a lot of work, and I had to work at it, and I had to do things differently. I had to go back to the house and where I was au pairing, and I had to do things differently. I had to say no to them, which wasn't easy, because they were used to me saying yes, it's okay, you can do this or you can go there, and they didn't like that. And it was hard, but that was my amends to them, saying no and and doing it right this time, and being there for a while to look after them the way I should have been. And after that, I had to leave that job, because it wasn't the right place for me to be at that stage in my recovery. And I suppose I had to have faith, and I had to trust my sponsor, because I was really scared of leaving that job, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And I did it. Like I did this year, what I did is I did exactly as I have been told. I followed suggestions to the best that I could, and that was one of a big suggestion for me, having to leave my job and move into my own place, which I did. And I've been okay ever since. I did that, and today I am living on my own. I'm buying my own food. I'm paying my own rent. I'm looking after myself, which is like a big thing for me. I just turned 30, and I've never been able to do those things. And for the first time in my life, I can do those things. And I work with kids, which is also quite important for me. And when I relapsed, I was still working with these kids as well, trying to come to meetings, trying to hide it from the people around me, trying to self-medicate, to detox, and completely a mess, trying to get out of it, and I just couldn't. I couldn't do it on my own. And I had to go back into treatment. I had to go back to this, and also God's grace, because I didn't deserve going back to this job, definitely not. And I was given another chance to work with these kids again, and make amends for, I was demoted, obviously. I wasn't in the same position that I was. I had to take responsibility and go make amends and do it differently with this job. And if I think of it, I don't even deserve that. I don't deserve getting another chance at that stuff, but I have, and that's grace. That's a lot of grace for me. Also a lot of stuff that I've changed around this taking responsibility for my life is the people that I worked for in Joburg enabled me for a long time, and they've paid for me for everything. They've been paying for my medical aid, and a lot of financial amends towards them. And what I had to do is I had to cancel my medical aid. I'm not on a medical aid. I'm also having to have faith and trust that I'll be okay, and God will look after me, and doing it differently, and knowing I can't afford it, so I can't have medical aid, and I can't allow other people to pay for me anymore, because they've done that all my life. And also, they often come down and they come and visit, and I've made an effort to, whenever they come down, financially, I would, if we go out or whatever, I would make an effort to pay for their meal or whatever. And I remember the last time they were here, and I did that, they completely shocked, because I don't do these things, and it's different. It's completely different, because usually it's that expectation or entitlement from me, this is what they do. They look after me, and it's okay, and it really felt good that I was able to do that. I also had an opportunity. I don't see my mom and my brother often. because they live in Joburg, and during this year I've been trying to build relationships with them, and be there for my mom. You know, for the first time in my life, inactive, I was never there for my mom. I remember when I was inactive, my mom and my dad got divorced, and she was extremely sick, and I was in a garage using day in and day out, didn't care what's happening with her. I remember the only time I went home was to go get clean clothes, and I would literally go in, and I remember the picture in my head, my mom lying on the couch, just looking at me, going in, getting clothes, cheers mom, and going back to someone's garage to sit and use. And today, this year, there was a lot of moments for me that I could do that differently with my mom. I also made my mom very sick, I think, a big part of my active addiction. Also, my dad was alcoholic, her dad was alcoholic, so she's also quite sick in her own way. And and I could be there for her this year, you know, and I could just be a daughter. I did my step 4 and 5. The EDA steps, that's the Eating Disorder Anonymous steps, and I got quite a big awakening from that. Of I expected my mom to be a certain way all my life. I expected her to not shout at me, to treat me differently, because I used that as an excuse as well all my life to blame her for what I'm doing. And I did my step 4 and 5, and what my sponsor said to me is, I'm expecting her to be a certain way, to be this mom, but what about me? What her expectations of me being a daughter, what was that, of me being a daughter? And I really took that to heart, and I was sure, I've never been a daughter either in any possible way for my mom. And this year I've been bit by bit doing that differently. My mom and my brother came down and visited me, and I had the opportunity to make it about them, and just be there for them and make amends. And it wasn't easy. I had to continuously work my program. I had to phone my sponsor, go on my knees, take my inventory, and just not react to anything, because it's hard to be around my family. It's not easy, but I knew it was about me making amends to them and giving back. And also my mom and my brother and his girlfriend had a bit of a fight the night, and I was able to remove myself from the situation, which is big for me, because usually in the past it would be about me, and I would cause the chaos. And it was really a big moment and a special moment for me that it wasn't like that. It wasn't about me for once, and it wasn't me causing the chaos or the fighting, and I could step away and let them sort out their own stuff. And also giving back to my family that weekend as well. What else? Also, for me important about working the program is I was taught I have to have a sponsor. I have to work the steps in my life to the best that I can. I don't always do this perfectly, and I'm still learning how to do this. But I do know from my previous experience from not doing it. It doesn't work. That's what keeps me clean. Sober. That's what keeps me sober. And also I had to go through the experience of not doing that and thinking if I just sit around and hang around, there's always a share that I like to use as an example, like sitting in this chair and thinking I'm going to get better through osmosis. Is not the case, and that's been my experience as well. I have to work in my recovery, and what I put in is what I'll get out. I have to do my step 11s at night. I have to talk to my sponsor on a regular basis. I have to apply the steps in my life. and I do service, and yeah, I do these things on a daily basis. Whatever I've been taught to do in treatment, I still do today. I go on my knees every morning, every night. And that is my basics, and I come to meetings. I do no less than 4 meetings a week, and that is what keeps me clean. And I know, because in the past I've stopped doing those things, and as soon as I stop doing those things, I pick up. And sure. I don't know what else to say. How's the time there? Quarter past, okay. And then also just the other thing I wanted to say about this year is, I had to do it differently around men. Like, I have to share about this, sorry. Because when I was clean for like 15 months, I had no relationships with other ladies in the fellowship. And I was hanging with like a certain crew, and they were all men, and it was exactly the same as what I would do my whole life. And I had to change this as well. I had to start putting effort in reaching out to women in the fellowship, which isn't easy for me always. And I still know I can put a lot of work into that, and I still try and do that today, and I do today. I always think of how different it is this time for me around to last time, and it was today. I have friends, lady friends, lady friends, and they care about me and they love me, and I care about them, and I try and love them to the best that I can, and I'm learning how to do this, and it's the same thing. Relationships is effort, and it takes work, and I know this as well. I know, like, she's not here, but I also like a lot of gratitude for my sponsor. She's a very special lady. And I wish she was here today. Sorry guys, I'm not planning that. Oh, fuck, bro. Okay. Okay, focus. Right, I really wish she was here today. Sure. Okay, very special lady. She has brought me through this year, I think I'm going to skip this part. Sorry, you get the picture, right? Okay. I really just want to say thank you to Mandy, who sponsored me through this year. Sure, amazing lady. And that is also the first real true relationship I have with someone. She knows everything about me, and thank you. I think it's over now. And I had to learn how to do that as well. And also, it hasn't been easy. I've had my moments where I get defensive, and I don't like what she's saying to me. And it's amazing. She never stopped loving me. Hey, she never stopped loving me, and not in a nice, it's okay way. In a hard way, because that's what I need as an addict. I need the truth, because I lie to myself all the time, and I think what I think is usually delusional or not okay, and I need someone that can be honest with me, and I really amazing with that today. And also just want to share about God, because I know I'm a miracle sitting here, because for 12 years I've never been able to do this. I've never been able to be clean or be sober without having to use, and sure, the fight having to do that, if I think back of the journey I've walked to try and figure out, fuck, how am I going to possibly get this right? And coming to this fellowship and these 12 steps that has taught me I can't do this on my own, and I need a miracle. I need something out there that's going to help me with this, has saved my life. Because, I know from experience, I've never been able to do this, and I'm sitting here today because of this program, because of this fellowship, and because of these 12 steps. I got to share, like, I believe in this program because what I've seen. And my hope started at the house on the hill. I have to share this. It's a very special place for me because I've been to many, many rehabs, and I've never found hope in any of them. And this is where I found my hope, not because of the rehab, because of the people there working this program. And for the first time, I saw people. And I wanted what they have, and I was like, this is amazing. I didn't stay clean because I wasn't willing to do what I had to do, but I found my hope there, and I kept coming back to Scottsboro because I knew there was something here. I fought every now and then to come back because I'm a rehab baby, and I don't like rehab, but in any case, I knew, like I remember the last time before I came to Scottsboro, my mom wanted to send me to a different treatment center, and I was like, no, please just send me here, because I knew this is where people stay clean and something's happening. And also the reason why I know is because the first time I came down to Scottsboro, there's still people that I was in treatment with that's still sitting here today. Cassidy is like one of them, for me, that's where I got hope, and I just kept on coming back because I knew there's something here, and regardless, I just kept on coming back. About God, I want to share, like, it's also been a journey for me because I know that's the main focus for me. That's what it is about, and I believe in this program. I have struggled with a relationship with God, or what is God, and all these things. I know I've had my doubts about it, and it hasn't been like perfect for me. And I just have to share something really amazing that happened to me. And if I had any doubt in my head that there isn't a God, like, this is something that happened for me. And it happened like a week ago, just before this. I kind of got into a bit of a wobbly before my milestone, and I was like in a mess, and I was complaining about my place I have, and my sponsor gave me my reality again about my gratitude, and I was in self-pity, and I was in tears, and I wasn't feeling good, and I prayed with a desperate heart, and I asked God for help. And the next moment, my phone rings, and I was like, and I answered the phone, and it was someone. I do service in the other fellowship, and it's a phone line service, and it's someone on the phone line, and I've never had a call from phone line from this service before. It was my first time, and it was a guy. It should have been a girl, but in any case, like, I don't know. And he couldn't get through to the ladies, in any case. And he said he needed to get to a meeting. He's been a few years in recovery, but he's in another. I almost say country, not another country, in another area that he doesn't know, and he's doing his milestone in a week, and he's freaking out, and it was exactly what I was going through, and I was like, I don't know, unexplainable, like, get goosebumps when I think about that, like, that is God, like, and I got out of myself right there. I related. I was like, geez, bro, I'm like sitting here in a mess, self-pity, poo party, and like, because I'm sharing my 1 year and I'm freaking out, and the coincidence of this guy going through exactly the same thing, randomly can't get hold of the men on the other side, and yeah, and he got me out of myself, and I tried to help him, and I knew in that moment, I knew there's a God, and my God looks after me, and He's gotten me this far, you know. So yeah, and I know I'm sitting here through grace, through a lot of grace, and today I'm grateful for that. So yeah, I think I'm going to stop there, and yeah, thanks for letting me share. Okay.